Hello everyone and welcome to the Proudfoot podcast. Today on our 29th episode, we are going to be talking about leveling up your character, ability score improvements, and feats in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So let's get started. First off, leveling up your character. When does this happen? Well, from a player's perspective, it happens when the DM says it happens. After a certain number of adventures and quests, your DM will eventually say, "Alright everyone, it's time to level up your character." At which point you'll go to your class's class summary table in chapter 2 and see what new features and abilities you get from your class. So typically you are going to get more spell slots if you're a caster, and you're going to get a new feature from your class. This could vary depending on what level you're going to, but they're all listed out in your class so you can go and consult them to see exactly what they do. The other thing you get besides spells and new features is you get more health. So your hit dice, remember, are what determine your health, and when you level up, you get to add one of your hit dice plus your constitution modifier to your overall health points. Now you could roll the health die, or you could take the average value of the health die, which is always half of its value plus 1. I recommend taking the average because it's less uncertain and you still get a decent improvement to your health, but if you like to roll the dice, then by all means, roll the dice. So that's what happens when you level up your character. Now, what are these pesky ability score improvements? Well, they're not pesky, they're actually great. Every time you get one of these, you get to increase one of your stats by 2 or 2 of your stats by 1. Now, this can be a great way to improve your character over time. Remember, you cannot go past 20 with any of your stats unless you have something that says otherwise. But typically speaking, you can't go past 20. So yeah, just don't try it. Your DM will not be impressed or happy with you if you try and tell them you have a 30 strength. No, nobody, you have a 20 strength, and that's them's the rules. You got to respect that. Unless your DM gives you some magical item where your strength can be 30 for some reason. But if they've done that, then they got some seriously broken mechanics going on in their game that hopefully they've balanced out so it all makes sense and no one's just way more powerful than another player. But don't go trying asking for those special privileges. Anyway, that was a big aside just to say how ability score improvements work. Now, the thing about ability score improvements is you don't have to do them. That's right. If you would like to, you can not improve your ability scores. You might be thinking, what? Why? Why would I want to not improve my ability scores? My ability scores help me do everything in the game. It's going to make me such a better player. Well, lo and behold, there is something that can do even more for you depending on what you want out of your character. And that is, of course, feats. Feats will give you all sorts of different abilities, so features, that are not tied to a class or tied to your race. They are tied to your experience. Hence why you get them instead of an ability score improvement, which is meant to model how you've gotten better over the course of your journey, over the course of adventuring. You've increased your ability in some of these areas. A feat is meant to do a similar thing, but rather than increasing your general ability, you've gotten really good at a specific thing. This could be a combat-based thing. This could be a navigation-based thing. This could be an interpersonal thing. This could be a spell casting thing. Feats cover a variety of different parts of the game and things that you can do. So if it sounds like I'm being vague, I am, because there's lots of feats and I can't really go through and say this is what feats do, because feats do a lot of things. So feats usually give you a bullet list of what they do, or they do one thing. If they do one thing, it's usually a pretty awesome thing. If they do a bulleted list of things, they're usually pretty mid, but adding them all together, it's pretty awesome that you get that. Sometimes feats will give you an ability score improvement of 1. So sometimes your strength, your intelligence, your wisdom will go up by 1 as part of the feat. Now, the only caveat to feats is, well, there's 2 caveats to feats. One is some feats have prerequisites. You might need to be a certain race, have a certain ability score value in one of your stats in order to take this feat, or be of a certain class maybe. So sometimes there are restrictions on which feats you can take based on your character. The other restriction is the DM restriction, because feats are part of the optional rules in chapter 6. The other part, which we'll talk about next episode, is multi-classing, which is also optional. So if your DM allows it, then feats are in the game. If your DM does not allow it, then unfortunately feats are not in the game for you. But this can be a double-edged sword, because sometimes a DM will not allow feats, but then you can try and do anything a feat would allow you to do. There just might be a roll attached to it. Similarly, if feats are allowed in the game, the DM might say that you can't do X because it is a feat to do that. So you're more than welcome to take the feat, and then you're able to do that. But it really depends on how your DM is ruling feats for the game. So make sure, as always, talk to your DM. Communication is key, guys. Okay, that's everything I want to talk about today. So thank you so much for listening to the 80 Proudfoot podcast. If you enjoyed it, please follow us on Instagram, Spotify, or Twitter. And as always, may the gods have mercy on your soul.